I hope you have had a good lunch. Let me give you some organizational points. We have now a few words from our president, the president of Hof University, some greetings. Afterwards, we will have the introduction to the exhibition by Dene Grigar. This will finish around 3:15, possibly slightly earlier. And then you're welcome to grab a coffee and something to eat and continue with a town hall, SIGWeb town hall meeting. Since all of you who have a full registration will be a SIGWeb member anyway, so thanks. It's actually the meeting for you to attend as well. So the meeting, I think, will take place in this room. So grab a coffee, come back in this room. And now, it's G20. No, I saw one tweet and it said it would be here, but it's okay, G28, that's fine. No, that's fine. That's fine, we have to decide. So it's G028. And now it's my pleasure to welcome our president, and he will have a few words to you.
Yeah. Thank you, colleague Atzenbeck, and give him a hand for this wonderful work. I cordially welcome you at our university. We appreciate your coming. It's a great honor for us to have such a lot of experts here. And I hope that your discussion will give you and us some new information, some new ideas, what we can do in the future. You have a key role, I guess, in your profession for the future. And I think we have to do a little bit more in our country. Germany slept a little bit, excuse me for that, for the Germans. And I know that we need some more collaboration with all the other countries who are a little bit further in all the developments. Some minutes ago, I got the information by our chief minister that Bavaria will invest in the future in research and in international collaborations. That means we are looking for a lot of international researchers coming to Bavaria, working with us and invent some new ideas for the future with the young people, with our companies, and so on. We are a University of Applied Science, and then we work together with a lot of companies. That's a brand of this type of university. In other countries, it's a little bit different, but here, this type is very important because we are the bridge between the basic research at the university, at the classical university, and the innovation in the companies. And building this bridge, it's necessary to use the artificial intelligence for the politicians in Germany. That's very new. For you, it's old hat, I would say. But nevertheless, we need some more ideas how we can transport, how we can transfer these ideas, these basic ideas of artificial intelligence in our companies. And so a network of a lot of universities is very, very important for the future. I know in some countries they try to forget the globalization, but it's quite impossible. We have to find new ways against strong partners in the East, I would say. And then you can help us in our country as well to find such a new way. That means you're coming from different universities. So if you are interested in new partnership with a university, with a very small university like Hof University, you're cordially invited to give me some more information about the interest of collaboration of you, of your students, of your leadership. Then I'm really open to come and discuss what we can do again. Hof University is a very small university, as mentioned, but we have 94, 95 international partners all over the world, United States, in South America, in China, in India, and so on. So we are very open and we are very keen on having more partners because internationalization for our students is also building bridges between nations. So it's not only a matter of the topics you discuss here, but it's also a matter of ambassadors, of human beings working together. So I hope your stay here in Hof is a start, is a kickoff for a lot of further conferences here in other parts of the world where we can learn from each other. We can learn from you, where maybe we can contribute a little bit from our side. And then I hope you feel well here in Hof. Hof is a very small city. Yeah. In Germany, it's a city with 45,000 inhabitants. In your countries, maybe it's a village or something like that. But it doesn't matter. We have a very important side. I've seen it. It's Mödler-Reuth, Little Berlin. You're going to see it this afternoon. It's very, very important. I've been there with a lot of international guests, ambassadors, and so on. And there you can feel a little bit what it means to have a divided place. It's a small village, but you can see the wall. You can see all what happened 3 decades ago. And that's maybe also something what you have in your special motto. So I hope you enjoy that. So you have a good discussion here, have a good feeling. I hope a good food as well. It's a little bit different maybe if you compare it with your country. But I often stay in the United States, for example, but also in other countries. So I know all the different foods, and I enjoy that. Being in the United States, of course, I eat a hamburger. Being in India, I eat curry, and so on and so on. And I love that. Yeah, I was in the United States some weeks ago, but only for vacation. And the hurricane Dorian didn't hit me this time. 2 years ago, I had the problem with Irma. I had to go to Canada then, because then Florida was a little bit, it was a perilous situation. But nevertheless, I hope you come in a country where it's really, really safe. We don't have any problems with weather. It's smelling a little bit outside, but it depends on the farmer. But that's not normal. Normally we have sun, normally it's cool, and so enjoy it. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Have a lot of discussion, and please come again. Give me more information about what we can do in the future. And if you have some hints what we can change, tell him, tell me, whatever. And if you have the chance to come in your country, at your university, I'm really happy to come and see you. Thanks a lot, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now it is my pleasure to hand over the microphone to Dene, who will present the exhibition to you. Thanks, Dene.
Hi, everybody. I'd like to start by thanking folks. I want to start by thanking Anne-Christine Hubble, who's helped me put this exhibit together starting last year. I came in February, did a site visit, developed this site, and worked with her, and even she gave me her couch, so I appreciate that. Klaus, thank you so much for having faith. I met you on Twitter, and then he flew out from the East Coast of the United States to visit with me and to invite me to do this, so thank you for that. And Jonas Boltz for helping me for the last few days in setting up and being in the room, spelling me, and Benjamin Defel, who's been helping me as well. So thank you, everybody. I also want to make sure that I give everyone a handout at the end of this presentation for some events coming up that are live streamed that I think you might be interested in. So don't let me forget to do that. So what I want to do is walk us through the exhibit that is taking place. If you have not had a chance to see it, please do come by. We're closing on Friday, so you have this afternoon, tomorrow, and most of Friday to see it. So I want to get to there. Okay, so what I want to start by saying is that I'm looking at a model of curating, as I mentioned yesterday, that moves away from what might be described as a one-way broadcast model of distribution. Usually you go to a gallery and you stand in front of a painting for a second. I think the general amount of time people stay in front of a painting is about 3 seconds. Worse than an internet connection with a website. But you go in front of the painting, you go to the next one, you go to the next one. And I'm trying to avoid that kind of experience by introducing degrees of openness and access and through participation and feedback, exchanges, and transactions. So having conversations with you, by having you be able to interact with the works themselves, touch the works. You can't touch the works in a gallery, you can't get near them. But in this case, you can touch all the works in the gallery that I'm presenting. So it's that kind of difference. And so the title of this exhibit is Tear Down the Wall, which mimics the theme of this conference. And in a sense, what I talked about yesterday very briefly was what my definition of curation is. And for those of you who didn't come to the workshop, just to reiterate, I see curation as a selection and organization of materials in an interpretive framework, argument, or exhibit in a way that allows for artifacts to be seen as being shaped by and shaping complex networks of influence, production, dissemination, reception, animated by multi-layered debates and historical forces. That's my definition of curation. And so the interpretive lens that I'm using is this idea of tear down the wall. And the way I'm achieving that with this exhibit is with the 9 works that are sitting there on the different stations. The thing that I want to remind ourselves about is not what hypertext is, but what hypertext can be for an artistic practice, right? So we're coming at it from a little bit of different approach from a scientific perspective. So from an artistic practice, what can hypertext be for us as artists? So that is what connects all of the 9 works that are in that room. And if you walk into that room and take that into your mind as you're looking at that, that might help inform you in the way that you might enter those works and enjoy those works and understand them. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a very different approach. And so that is the methodology behind my project. So what I want to also do is walk us through the timeline. Let's see if I can get this. So Klaus, your PDFs, not forwarding. We're missing a bunch of slides. That one, we're missing my slides. Back. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, so I want to walk us through. As you walk into the room this way, you'll see John McDade's Twine narrative, Renew the Glass Man, and John is here with us. He's the featured artist for this show and for the transversal that takes place tomorrow. Next to him is Mark Bernstein's hypertext novel, Those Trojan Girls. Behind that, in the wall in front of you, would be B. Wells, James B. Wells' hypertext novel. It's a very long title, but How to Become King When You've Already Blown It Already. Mark America's net art piece from 1996, a very important work, Grammatron. It was shown at the Whitney Biennial and has been cited in many, many art magazines, and it's considered one of the top works of net art in the 20th century. Judy Malloy's hypertext narrative, The Yellow Bowl 2, which is a transmediation of an earlier work from 1992. John Barber and Greg Philbrook's Sonic Hypertext, Sound Spheres. And as you wrap back around, you see Mez Bree's 3D narratives. There's 2 of them on the same computer station. And then finally, Serge Boucheron's interactive narrative for the app, Fred. So those are the works that are in the show. And I've arranged them so that they are spread out and they're not organized by genre. What I was trying to attend to was getting folks to move around the room and to experience the works and to be delighted by the different types of works that you're encountering. So there's no, I didn't group them by interactive narratives on this side of the room or net art on this side of the room. I tried to kind of spread it out so that you can walk around and see something different in each segment of the room. So those are the 8. And what I want to do is just quickly walk you through these works. So this is the website for the project, and I'm just going to show you a little bit about each of these. So the first work that I'm talking about is Training to be King When You've Blown It Already. It's a very interesting work. James B. Well is brand new to the field. It's the first work he's ever shown. He comes out of the United States, UK, moves back and forth. The work is interesting because it's a PDF that's hyperlinked. Very simple form. So one of the things I want to stress is that hypertext does not have to be complex formats. Does not have to be complex programming systems. It can be something as simple as a PDF. So if you're teaching this kind of work, you do not have to teach programming. You can do it very simply with your students. And this is an example. It's 1,800 pages long, so it does take a bit of time to read. But what's interesting about it is it's a political commentary on the UK and US political systems and what's happening in the 21st century, right? And as it plays up on Donald Trump and Boris Johnson and those kind of folks. So it's very interesting to read from a political standpoint. Those Trojan Girls by Mark Bernstein. I was taken to this work because it's referencing Euripides, the Trojan women. So if you know anything about Greek drama, the question that Euripides asks in his work is what happens to the women after the men, after Troy falls. And of course, not good things happen to the women. There's rape, there's enslavement. And so in this case, he moves this story into a boarding house environment and what happens in a kind of speculative future in which there is a political breakdown, a system breakdown. And so there's all kinds of intertwined stories, and since this is built in Story Space 3, it's a very complex system with lots and lots and lots of different threads and paths to follow. Very wonderful work. We did a traversal of this work last February. Mark came online through live stream, and we were able to have a recording of that work. So please come and see that. And I want to mention, I've been working with Story Space since beta versions in 1990 and 91. I love Story Space 3. I want to go on record saying that. It's fabulous. Two works by Mez Breeze. Mez is an Australian artist, very well-known, prize award-winning. The first work is a place called Ormsey. She works in VR. So Mez is a very interesting artist. She started with net art, doing work with Flash and Shockwave, moved into just hypertext works, embedding her Flash and Shockwave works into it, spread out to code work, and now she's working in VR and narratives and 3D narratives. And so she's been doing this kind of work for the past 3 or 4 years. You can see her work. She partners with Andy Campbell and Kate Pullinger and artists like that to produce these narratives. This particular one, if you go and look at it, you'll notice that the two that I'm showing are very different in their looks. This one has a much more cartoon environment. This one is much more contemporary, right? So vignettes, VR micro stories. And so you can interact with these. This particular one turns as you touch it, it moves, and the stories are embedded on the body of this very futuristic figure in the storyline. The next one is Fred by Serge Boucheron, and this is actually a class project with many of his students. There's about 10 people involved in this project. He was teaching this course on app design. He's another prize-winning artist coming out of Paris. And so his students and he developed this project. It's an app for Apple and Android that's playing on the idea of the phone being a friend. And it's a commentary on how we've come to depend on this object so much that we interact with it more than any other person or thing in our sphere. And so it asks you to put it in his pocket, to talk to it. It tries to confide in you. And in a sense, it's poking fun at the way we trust these things without much thought, right? Very simple work, but very lovely work. Sound Spheres by John Barber and Greg Philbrook. John's here somewhere. Maybe he's not in the room. But John and Greg produced this, and it's essentially hyper sounds, so hypertext sounds. And as you move these spheres around, you're able to connect these spheres and make sounds, and then move them into a space, and then have a soundscape. So you're essentially participating in the development of a work. So it's very participatory, interactive, and experiential, which are the 3 hallmarks of what I think of as electronic literature, born digital media. I call it PI. Participatory, interactive, and experiential. Yellow Bowl by Judy Malloy. The original work was begun in 1992. She actually had it under contract with Mark Bernstein's company, Eastgate Systems, in 1994, and she was hit by a car and was very badly injured, and still to this day cannot stand or walk very far. So she was in a full body cast and was very incapacitated for quite a while. She managed to finish the work in '94, and then it was built in BASIC, which became obsolete. So to update it for contemporary computers, she recently transmediated it into JavaScript, HTML5, and CSS3. So it's able to be read today. It's actually quite interesting because what she's trying to do with this is talk about hybrid narratives. So when you look at the interface, the middle narrative is random. It's a random generator. And on each side of the narrative are two streams of sequential stories. And in fact, you're looking at 4 different characters talking in this narrative. And as you move through the work, they coalesce into one voice at the end. So it's really quite interesting to see what she does with this combination of sequential and generative hypertext. We Knew the Glass Man. John McDade is here. This is, if anyone is familiar with Uncle Buddy's Phantom Funhouse, published in 1993 by Eastgate Systems, Inc. Wonderful work. It came packaged in a box, a little black box. I think we called it the chocolate box of death, because you receiving this box received the last bit of artifacts from your Uncle Buddy. And as you opened up the box, there were all these objects in it. Everything from a short story by Buddy that was sent to Vortex magazine and editorial comments by the editor, 2 music CDs that you're able to put into a musical cassette reader and hear the music by Buddy Newkirk and his band. There were 5 in the original version, 5 floppy disks, and in the upgraded version, 1 CD. So it tells you just how much information was on those 5 floppy disks. Also came with this was all kinds of mailers and odds and ends. It was a really fabulous box of artifacts. And as you work through the work, you realize that there's a mystery that you're solving, that Buddy has disappeared. You don't know what happened to him. He died, maybe he didn't. But at the end, you start to think that maybe there's something science fiction-y about this, that he's time traveling, that something is beyond death with this story. Well, We Knew the Glass Man picks up on that thread many, 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 many years later, and we re-enter this world of Arthur Buddy Newkirk. And so I encourage you to come and look at it. It's built on Twine. In fact, John's son, Jack, did the programming in CSS on it. It's a very simple interface with interesting connections inside various nodes of the text. So please come and see that one. And then finally, to end with Mark America's Grammatron. This work, as I mentioned, was a very important work of NetArt, shown in the Whitney Biennial. He's shown it, I tried to count, it's over 25, 30 times. I actually mounted a show 2 years ago at the British Computer Society built on the 30th anniversary of this work, the 20th anniversary of this work. And so the whole show is built around Grammatron. And the work looks at, it's an essay, essentially, that's looking at the way the cyberspace world was unfolding and the way we interacted with that world circa 1996. So it's quite interesting to look at that and to harken back to that time period. What's really interesting for me as a Flash aficionado is that he was building this and Flash was starting to take off. And all of the works today that were built in Flash that came after this work that were so popular will find their life's end after January 2020 when Adobe quit supporting Flash. His work, however, the animations are all built in GIFs. So he was criticized at the time for not having more sophisticated animations, but in the end, his work has outlasted all the Flash works of the period. So it's quite interesting from that standpoint. So those are the works. And I do want to end with a couple of just final comments, and then I'll let you go. So the exhibit is meant to be a dialectical approach to curating that moves away from what might be termed that broadcast model, right? And so what I'm trying to envision is more of a black box associated with performance and a way for, and action, right? So black box is performance, movement, action, rather than a white cube associated with emptiness and neutrality, right? A lot of these works are highly political, And I think they do show that in this environment that we've built. The exhibit is designed to be experiential, participatory, and interactive, a space for developing critically and creatively upon the dialectical relationship between virtuality and the art of exhibition, to quote one of my favorite curators, Van Steeken. Anyway, I thank you once again for letting me speak. Please come by, and I would be happy to walk you through some of these works or let you just play on your own. And before I go, I have handouts for you, if someone can pass these around for me, but I'd like to just mention what you're looking at. Tomorrow at 2:30, we're having a traversal of John McDade's work. And a traversal is a performance by a reader or the author on the computer technology and software originally intended for the work. So if the work was created in 1996, I would pick one of the computers in my lab circa 1996, and we would experience that work on that computer. In this case, this work is contemporary, so we're showing it on a contemporary computer, but we're going to be videotaping this performance. We'll be turning it into smaller clips and putting it on Vimeo, and then including it in the book, Rebooting Electronic Literature Volume 3, which will come out next summer. And along with that will be images of the work, as well as interview with John McDade and critical commentary and things like that. My lab, the Electronic Literature Lab, puts on many traversals. The goal of our project is to document as many of these works as possible so that it's available to all of you, even if you don't have access to the technologies. And so the next one coming up is Fragments of a Dionysian Body, Eric Steinhardt's work, and Anna Knocker from Poland will be visiting my lab to do that performance for us. Following that, in November, is Megan Hayward's, the original author of this work, published by Eastgate Systems, Inc., of Day and Night. I'm bringing Eduardo Katz out to my lab in the spring, and he's going to be performing a couple of his works. And then I have a group performance of Myst. So I don't know if you're into Myst, the game, but we're going to be doing a big performance of that. And then finally, Alan Sondheim. We'll be doing quite a bit of his flash literature from the 2000-2005 period. These are live, so if you look at our website, you can see the link and then follow us and participate. Thank you once again.
Do you have any questions to Dene?
Questions, comments, opposing viewpoints? Have any of you been to the exhibit? Okay, so any of the works resonate with you at all? Please? Yeah, what did you like about it?
It's very beautiful the way, no, I think it's loud enough. It's the way it is being put up, that what is actually happening constantly in the memory, and the way it juggles around the idea, it's very immersive. That word immersive is what I found there.
Yeah, she was trying very hard to be political in this work and make some commentary about politics, and ethics. So that was at the heart of what she was trying to do with that particular work. Yeah. How about someone else? Anybody else? Jill, what did you look at? Yeah.
Red makes you quite uncomfortable at times.
Yeah. Yeah. I think of this as playable media, right? One of my favorite shows I did was a show of iPads, and I was doing Jason Edward Lewis's iPad app work. And the show was in a gallery behind a ceramic show. And the ceramics were like $10, $5, $25. And there were signs all over that says, don't touch, don't touch. And then you walk into my gallery, and I had all these very expensive iPads on the wall that said, please touch, please touch, please touch. And it really freaked people out. It took them a long time to remember that they can actually interact with art because we're so used to not touching things. It was such a great thing, and I have lots of pictures of people standing back and doing this. But the children had no trouble. It was all play for them. Yes, sir?
I'm just curious about your thoughts, if you could draw a distinction for me. So at some of the other conferences I go to, there's a demo kind of hour, or sometimes they call it interactivity. It's also very much a please but it's not framed as an exhibition, and it's not, in a way, it's not artistic in the way that you've set this up. And I'm just wondering if you could comment a little bit about demos, interactive demos.
Yeah.
And what you're doing here, and how do you think about that difference? Because there clearly is a difference, but there's also some overlap. So.
Yeah, I've written about this a lot because my mother was a painter, so I grew up around art. And so I felt comfortable going to galleries, museums. And so when I encountered electronic literature, I don't call the folks that make this authors, I call them literary artists, because there's so much beyond words, right? And so that was the first thing that comes to my mind. And in 2008, I put on my first exhibition of electronic literature at a show called Visionary Landscapes. And the whole mindset behind it was that this is art. This needs to be set up just as I would mount a show of paintings. I'm doing a show of media art. And so I selected, pedestals where the computer sat on. And the first time people had seen that year, the folks that came in the room were like, oh my gosh. Usually you're on a table, people are milling around. It's more of a rough and ready environment. This is art. Let's engage with this intellectually. Let me have a relationship with this work that's personal, but also shared. And I think that's the difference between a demo. Demo is somebody showing you something. It's a one-way communication. What I'm trying to do is more two-way, or even three-way, four-way, because it's between you and the art, you and the people in the room, and it's you and the other works all around it. I mean, there's other works. What I don't want to do, I have headphones in that room mainly because I didn't want to interrupt the conversations in that main room, but normally I don't use headphones. I want sound everywhere. And I want everybody to be reminded that this is the environment that we live in, right? So that there's a big difference. And it goes back to the notion of white cube, black box. So to me, it's maybe even a little bit different than the two because it's beyond that. It's still gallery oriented, but it's more interactive, right? Does that answer your question? Yeah. And I really like this. I like this approach a lot, which is why I keep doing it. I've done 18 shows in my career, 17 since 2008. And I do regular art, so I know how to curate regular art. I prefer this. I like the... Oh, what? Oh, yeah. I'd love to do Kai. I love Kai. Anybody else have a question, comment? I actually do workshops and I teach curation, so I'm happy, and I have like little kits and things like that I share, how-tos and things like that. So I'm happy I want everybody show. I don't want to be the only one doing this. I mean, how do you build a field, folks? Right? How do you build a field? Right? It's by everybody doing it, everybody getting their hands dirty, trying it, showing the work off. I mean, how much further would we be if we were all involved in this enterprise, right? So I'm not proprietary. Open source curating. That might be it. Thank you once again.
Thanks a lot, Dene. And now I ask you to grab a coffee and something to eat outside. And if you like, you're very much invited to the SIGWeb town hall meeting, which takes place in G028. This is the room across the, or next to the, how would I say, on the left-hand side, basically, when you leave this room downstairs. Okay, thanks.